1994 LAPD officer Christy Hamilton became the oldest rookie to graduate from the police academy at 45 years old, wanting to follow in her father's footsteps, who served 30 for the Los Angeles Police Department. But 4 months after her ceremony, around 1 a.m. February 22, an LAPD 911 operator received a call from a 17-year-old who said that he had just killed his father. The teen gave an address on Amestoy Avenue in Northridge. When Officer Brondell Hamilton responded to the call and her partner arrived at the scene, they observed several screaming persons at the end of a cul-de-sac. The officers parked a short distance away to devise a tactical plan, but unknowingly parked in front of the location where the boy had set up an ambush position. Officers didn't know was that the teen was hiding in the yard. He was crouched behind a brick wall on the side of the house, armed with an AR-15 assault rifle. 6 more officers arrived to the scene minutes later after Officer Hamilton, and as soon as the backup began to step out of their patrol cars, the 17-year-old opened fire on the officers, shattering windows and leaving dozens of bullet holes through side panel on vehicles. Officer Hamilton was crouched down behind a car door. When she attempted to grab a police radio, the bullet punctured the door and went through an arm opening in the vest and into her chest. After firing about 15 rounds, the teen stopped shooting and retreated back into the house. Additional police cars arrived along with an ambulance, which took Hamilton to Northridge Hospital Medical Center, about 4 miles away. She was pronounced dead about an hour later, with her father at her bedside. While fellow officers and medical personnel were removing Hamilton from the scene, 5 or 6 shots were heard from inside the house. Shortly before 6 a.m., after attempting to contact the teen for several hours without success, SWAT officers tossed tear gas canisters into the house. A few minutes later, they entered the house and found the bodies of the teen and his father. Both had been shot to death, with the teen committing suicide. The teen was apparently a meth addict and killed his father, a Vietnam veteran, in a dispute over loud music. More than 3,500 police officers, from as far away as Oklahoma City, attended Hamilton's funeral. Hamilton's sign is located on the northeast corner of Lassen Street and Amestoy Avenue. On Thursday, January 10, 2019, 22-year-old rookie cop Natalie Corona was 5 months out of the police academy when she responded to a 3-car vehicle crash. As Officer Corona was conducting an investigation at the collision scene, a person not involved with the crash rode up to the scene on a bicycle. As Officer Corona was speaking to one of the persons involved in the crash, a man appearing out of the shadows walked up to Officer Corona and opened fire on her with a semi-automatic weapon, striking her. He shot her several more times, unloading his entire magazine after she fell to the ground. He then began shooting randomly at others, bystanders and vehicles, even striking a firefighter's boot. The suspect fled into his nearby home a few blocks away. He casually chatted with his roommate as if nothing happened and even went outside to watch as police began rushing to the shooting scene. The gunman left behind a backpack with his ID that helped police track him to his home. As responding officers searched for him, he emerged from the home wearing body armor, yelled at the officers, and then re-entered the home. Police surrounded the residence, leading to a standoff which ended with the gunman pushing a couch in front of the door and committing suicide with a gunshot wound to the head. When officers entered the dead gunman's bedroom, they found a note on the gunman's bed that read, "The Davis Police Department has been hitting me with ultrasonic waves meant to keep dogs from barking," the letter said. "I notified the press, internal affairs, and even the FBI about it. I am highly sensitive to its effects on my inner ear. I did my best to appease them, but they have continued for years and I can't live this way anymore." Officer Corona was the first officer in the department to die in the line of duty since 1959. She had only been patrolling solo for 2 weeks. On the evening of May 6, 2023, 18-year-old Jaquan Buchanan received a call from his girlfriend saying she did not have money. She needed money for a barbecue. So roughly after midnight, Buchanan's girlfriend and another woman picked up Buchanan and 3 other teenagers. The teenagers were all wearing black clothing and had face coverings. The group began to go on a robbery spree. They first robbed a 33-year-old woman. The woman said she was approached by 4 people who were each armed with a handgun with an extended magazine, and they demanded her Louis Vuitton belt before taking her cell phone and other items, including credit cards. After the first initial robbery, the group stole a red Kia Forte and separated from the 2 females. The Kia was used by the 4 suspects in a robbery shortly afterward. They pulled up to a 62-year-old woman standing in front of her home and talking to a 29-year-old woman. The group pushed the 2 women to the ground and robbed them at gunpoint, taking a saw bag and a cell phone. The teens then drove until they seen where a man had just parked his Tesla. They surrounded him, took his cell phone and Tesla key. Roughly at 1:40 a.m., the 4 teens spotted and followed female officer Ariana Preston driving home from completing her shift. As Officer Preston parked her car, the teens drove past then returned. When she got out and began to walk towards her front door, 3 of the teens hopped out of the Kia and opened fire at the officer. She returned fire and let off 2 shots before she was fatally shot in the face and neck. They ran back to the Kia, but one of the offenders dashed over to Preston's body and took her gun and badge as she lay dying on her front lawn. The 4 teens fled the scene and 20 minutes later set the stolen car on fire. Nearly 20 minutes after the shooting, officers Preston's Apple Watch identified that she was under distress and alerted 911. By 2:15 a.m. a call for a 10-to-1 officer who needs assistance was dispatched, and a total of 30 minutes passed before another officer finally arrived and transported Officer Preston in the back of his patrol car to the nearest hospital where she succumbed to her wounds. Later that day, the youngest suspect, 16-year-old Jalen Frazier, reportedly bragged to one of his friends that was not involved with the crime. Frazier allegedly told the friend about what happened, and the friend took the information to the police. Working with investigators, the friend called Frazier on speakerphone as detectives listened in. Frazier again admitted to the crimes, and he claimed that the murder of the police officer on the news was his work. Also in the phone call, he admitted that he sat in the car when the group went to rob Preston, while Breland, Brooks and Buchanan got out of the car, and Brooks inevitably shot and killed the officer. Frazier's mother later eventually turned him into police. On Sunday, Jaquan Buchanan called his ex-girlfriend and asked if he could stay at her house because he had to lay low. He ordered an Uber to pick him up at Trevor Breland's house where all of the suspects were located. At the time, law enforcement had set up surveillance on Trevor Breland's house. When the Uber arrived to the house, they pulled the Uber over seconds after Buchanan climbed inside. Buchanan yelled a warning down the street to the other suspects still inside Breland's home, but cops surrounded the house, and the suspects were taken into custody after an hours-long SWAT standoff. During Buchanan's arrest, he was wearing the Louis Vuitton belt that he had stolen from the first initial robbery. He was also caught with a Glock 17 with an extended magazine with a Glock autosear, also known as a switch, which is a small device that can be attached to the rear of the slide of a Glock handgun, converting the semi-automatic pistol into a machine gun capable of fully automatic fire, and anyone in possession of a switch could be punished to up to 10 years in federal prison. The detectives linked the casings and prints from the murder scene back to the Glock 17. Buchanan admitted that he got the gun from a seller in Indiana. Eventually 21-year-old Corey Gray was indicted on federal charges. The charges accuse Gray of traveling from Indiana to Chicago between October and December of 2021, and illegally selling a Glock 17 9mm handgun. Corey was arrested the same day as Officer Preston's funeral. All 4 suspects were charged with first-degree murder, possession of a stolen vehicle, burglary, and 5 counts of felony armed robbery. But the teenagers were not first-time offenders. They had lengthy criminal backgrounds. One of the oldest suspects, 19-year-old Trevor Breland, court records show the man's first adult arrest came in July 2021 when he was caught with a gun equipped with an extended magazine. While in custody, he spat on a cop and tried to kick another officer. Less than a week later, he was arrested again after allegedly throwing his mother and 2 televisions down the stairs and flattening one of her car tires. At the time of his current arrest, he was on adult probation for unlawful use of a weapon. 19-year-old Joseph Brooks, who officials said admitted to killing Preston when she reached for her gun during the robbery, was adjudicated delinquent for aggravated vehicular hijacking last year. armed robbery in 2021 and 2019, theft in 2020 and 2019, and 3 more robberies in 2019. 18-year-old Jaquan Buchanan, also known for his rap name Lil Munchie.
Gang, bitch. Come, man. Long little guys, pretty guys, man. Hey, fell in love with shooter switches, they so fast. Seeing Lil Dub and Spider name, we'll get on your ass. Hopping something fast, catch him, leave his ass dead. Niggas ain't know nothing, put like 50 to his head.
In addition to having the carjacking case pending in juvenile court, was adjudicated delinquent for robbery in 2019 and for criminal trespass to vehicles in 2019, 2021, and 2022. He is the 8th person accused of killing or trying to kill someone in Chicago in 2023 while awaiting trial for a previous felony. A law enforcement source said Brooks and Buchanan are by far in the top 10 for prolific juvenile carjackers over the last 2 years. The youngest suspect, 16-year-old Frazier, was on juvenile probation for armed robbery. His previous juvenile adjudications include unlawful use of a weapon and possession of a stolen motor vehicle.